Let's go down to Tasmania now, where one of my favourite topics, native forest logging, because of course, if you're a greenie, surely you would think that one of the most sustainable industries in the world is timber, right? Because you can knock down a tree, you make something productive out of the wood you get from that tree, then you plant another tree in the ground, a little sapling, and as it grows, it sucks carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Isn't that a good thing? But we know the greenies apparently hate it. Well, back in 2012 down in Tasmania, 350,000 hectares worth of native forest was given protection so that they couldn't cut down these trees anymore. Well, the native forest industry down in Tasmania is now running out of wood, and they are desperate to get their hands on some logs. So they're trying to do a deal with the local Aboriginal people whereby they will be able to log 50,000 hectares of land only, and the rest will be handed directly to Aboriginal people to control forevermore. Now, if you look past just the environmental aspect of all of this, and again, I just think the idea that you can't knock down a tree and plant another one and grow it back is utterly ridiculous. Saying that you're going to hand more than 300,000 hectares worth of forest land over to Aboriginal people and say, that's yours. I mean, again, we're going down this road of almost saying that you have control of the land above anyone else in this country and you get to dictate what projects we can and cannot have. If we're going to do that, we will be able to build nothing in this country.
Yeah, it's a shocking precedent that if allowed to happen in Tasmania, you can see it starting to happen around the rest of the country. I love in the article that was published today, there's a quote from an Indigenous elder, Jimmy Everett, and he says, and I quote, "We've never knocked back any land for return to the Aboriginal community, that's for sure." So he wasn't too worried about the environmental aspect either. He saw it for what it is. Here's a great chance for land to be handed over to Indigenous custodianship, which means the rest of Australians are denied access to it. We've seen this around the country, whether it's Ayers Rock, whether it's Mount Warning, land being given back to a very small percentage of people based on ethnicity, and the rest of us are denied access.
Yeah, here in New South Wales, it was a Goat Island. Goat Island was given back.
In the harbour,
In the harbour. We've seen the desalination plant as well as the nuclear waste plant that was pushed over in South Australia. This is going to become an ever bigger mammoth of an issue. And we know that if you go onto the Australian government's website and you look at native title as it is, it's a hell of a lot more land than you think it is. And then in shaded green, you've got your native title proposals. So there's applications that are currently underway as to whether that will be native title or not. So any Indigenous people claiming that they haven't got their fair share of land, if you're looking at that map, you already know is plainly untrue, but the average Australian just isn't across it.
And let's not forget, we talk about the case of the nuclear waste dump in South Australia, in Kimber, and the desalination plant at Port Lincoln that is now being opposed. The Barngala people, I forget the full name of the Aboriginal Land Corporation, but let's call it the Barngala Aboriginal Land Corporation. We learn on the front page of the Advertiser last week is now doing billion-dollar deals with renewable energy companies for projects that are going to be built or done on that land. So this is a big industry we're talking about here. You hand control of that land to people and it gives them, a massive source of income. And where does all that money go? Does it get funneled back into the local Aboriginal people? We don't really know because Aboriginal corporations operate outside of the usual bounds of an incorporated body. And they are using their native title powers to scupper important national projects. And if we keep going down that road, I fear we will end up in a position where you will not be able to build anything. I mean, you probably won't even be able to subdivide your house at some point unless you go off and get permission, which is what they tried to do in WA, where you couldn't put a fence post in the ground unless you got permission from the local Aboriginal.